straight to the questions. When you have a question, put your hand up. We'll get you a mic so everybody can hear what your question is and go from there.
I think every probably football coach in America is really exhausted, and you folks are as well, about the state of college football. That's been answered by a lot of different guys in a lot of different ways. And I think for all of us and for the players as well, we're excited about the opportunity now to start practicing football. And it starts Wednesday. And then we could actually go on the grass and do what we do, coach and practice, and just that is the greatness of the game of football. It really is when you can just go, let's go do what we love doing. And our players are excited about the opportunity to get on the grass. Can't tell you how excited they are about doing that. And I think our coaching staff is in the same frame of mind. So with that being said, questions?
So first, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Gotcha. Okay. Greg Moore, Arizona Republic. First, I want to say it's weird to not have Mark Brand here. Thanks to you guys for filling in, but we all miss Mark. Coach, Mark always made sure he was not part of the story. Do you have anything that you could say about him and what he meant to you in your transition?
He was a great resource for me. He's been around college football, been here for quite some time, and a guy I could lean on, talk to. He knows the history of this place, and I think it's always good when you have a guy with that type of information. I had been away from football for a while, just the coaching part of it, the everyday meeting with you folks and all that stuff, and how important it is. You guys are important to sports. And I don't think sometimes we don't realize that we have a job and we just do our job. Well, why are we doing it? It's to educate fans and all the listeners that listen to you folks, that you write stories, you have columns, you do whatever you do. You're in a tough seat because you don't have all the information. You don't know what goes on in the building every day. You see a part of practice. You don't see all the practice. And you have to speculate on some things. You have to gather your information from different sources. I say that because I sat in your seat, and it's very difficult. And I think you guys are the voice for college athletics, and that's important because the fans want to know. They want to have an idea. They want to have debates. That's what's great about sports. There's always a debate. You write something, some people will agree, some people won't. But that's why we do this, right? Because we can have conversation, dialogue. So that's the fun of it. I just think that I know sitting in that seat, the thing I learned is no matter what happens, I never took it personal. And I never was vindictive. I never made it a personal deal. I just didn't do that because I always thought as a player, as a coach, and even as a fan, that I didn't want to cross that line. That was my obligation to the sport. That's how I handled it when I sat in your seat. So you guys do a good job of reporting the news to our fans and our listeners. Continue to do it. I wish you guys much success.
And, Coach, I'm not huge on predictions in football. Football is one of the most unpredictable sports there is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there are predictions that don't have you guys at the top of the Pac-12 South. They've got you guys lower tier. What do you say to that? And what do you say to people who just can't see the good?
Well, I don't really coach the fans. I'm not trying to coach the fans. I just coach the players. You don't have to ask me, ask our players. And so I just think every year is a different journey. Now it's, the Pac-12, it's 1 through 12, right? And wherever they slate you, however they get to that number, it's great. That's how it starts. We'll see how it ends. I think that's the thing for us. I think that's for all athletes that participate in sports. There's always a team that's predicted to be here, another team predicted there. Wherever your fan base is, if you're not the number one team, you're kind of like, well, wait a minute, right? And so that's the uniqueness of sports. That's what makes it so great. And if, quote, you do something different, people say, wow, I don't worry about that. So I've been doing this too long. I don't worry about it at all.
Greg, in the back.
Herm, I'm the way back here, Coach.
I see you. Still good looking. Got a nice tan. Good to see you, my friend.
Doing what I can at my age. Hey, Coach, I know you talked about it when you came in your opening statement, but the NIL, right? Transfer portals, teams leaving the Pac-12. Players want to be classified as employees of the university. They want health insurance after they play. COVID. How do you deal with all of that? How do you get through the day with all that stuff going on?
Well, all those things, the great part about it, I don't have to make a decision on any of those. I stay in my lane. That's, you know, other people that have more authority than I do. Now, everyone has an opinion. Every writer in this room probably has their own opinion, and if I was the commissioner, or if I was the president, this is what I would do. And you can be a commissioner and a president in fantasy football. But in real life football, you're not. And I just look at it this way. College football has been around a long, long time. And the powers to be will figure out a way that college football will still survive and strive. This university will find a way to make it work, right? And they just will. And I don't have to worry about that. I'm just trying to figure out how do we make a first down, right? I mean, that's just how do we get the snap from center, you know? I mean, who's the quarterback, you know? Who's the wide receivers? Who's our two starting corners? I mean, all those things. What does the offensive line look like? I mean, I got my own worries. I got to worry about that.
Has there been a time, though, when you go, is this going to end? I mean, is it like, is there more stuff coming?
Well, I think every week it's a different scenario. And that's why I think what you say today might be totally different next week. And no one knows. It's flowing. You know, it's like the train is moving down the track, and it's moving kind of fast right now. And everyone's trying to figure out, what do we do? We want answers for questions we don't even know coming up yet, right? There's so many questions. If I do this, how does that affect this? You just have to, we got 12 games. I know who our opponents are, and that's what we're going to concentrate on as a football team.
Mark.
Hey, Coach. Mark McClune, 3TV, CBS 5. Just regarding your quarterback situation, when do you expect to have a decision there, and what will go into that?
Well, sooner or later. The sooner is better. But you got to have some competition, obviously. And now with a complete team, you know, we added 43 new players to our roster. That's a lot of guys, and we know that. And the good part is they all wanted to come here for some reason. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? 43 guys. Okay. We lost some good players. 11 of them signed NFL contracts. Some of them elected to leave for other reasons. I won't even get into that. And I wish them all luck. I really do, and much success. But we had a bunch of them that want to come here to this program. So that says a lot, too. Now it's a matter of, that you just mentioned, the quarterback position. We got to figure that out sooner than later, because you only have so many reps, and you got to build the offense around the quarterback. And we feel like we'll be able to do that, and we feel like we'll have success.
To follow up on that, Coach, about the quarterback position, how challenging is it to try to move the offense forward, continue to try to build that identity when you don't know who the man is under center yet? Yeah,
that's difficult because of the talent of the player that plays the position, right? They're all a little bit different. But we know their skill sets for the most part. Now, most of them were here in the spring. The one guy was not. But we've done enough work, watched enough film. We get it. And we know when you don't have a quarterback, the field is 150 yards long. It's a long field, right, when you don't have one.
Go ahead, Chris.
Herm.
Yes, sir.
What were some of the most important lessons from last season that you and your coaches took, and how are they applicable moving forward?
Well, first of all, that staff and those players did a great job last year. There was a lot of things going on. We all know that. They fought through it. They had a mindset of just focusing in on what we could control, and that was playing football. The shame of it all, and guys, I said this numerous times, we played 4 bad halves. And that was a pretty good team we had last year. And the opponents we lost to, they deserved to win. But when you look at the halves that we played and how we played them, if you played a little bit better and clean it up, you probably end up with more wins, to be quite honest. But that wasn't, our record was our record. We won 8 games. 8 games, pretty good record, by the way. But we got to live with that. And that's the shame of it, because those guys, a lot of them came back due to COVID, and we just quite didn't get it done. And that's the shame of last year. When I look at last year for those guys, you know, they were a well-bonded team. They kind of came together, as well as the coaching staff. So too bad.
Just to follow up, Herm, I know that there's some different things like guys running if they commit penalties after practices and stuff like that. But did what happened sort of shape your perspective on exactly what you do in practice from a toughness or intensity or discipline standpoint?
Well, I think what you realize is that when I look at those fouls, when you go back and you look at it, it wasn't by freshmen. It wasn't by juniors. It was seniors. It was guys that played here for 5 years. That's what was puzzling to me. And there's some things we can do to fix it. There's no doubt, and we have to fix it. We can't play that way. You know, it's bad football. It's just hard to watch for everybody. You guys think you don't like it? It's just makes me cringe, because it's giving the opponent an advantage, and we're not that good. And some of those games that we lost, we did that, or we let a team back in the game, or whatever it may be, or we started out behind because of certain things happening in the game. So hopefully we learn from it.
Michelle?
Michelle Gardner, Arizona Republic. I have a question and then a follow-up, Coach.
Sure.
You're thin at some positions on this team. Are you worried? How worried are you about injuries, and what positions in particular could it be costly if a guy goes down?
Well, I think we're thin in the fact at a lot of positions as far as playing together with experience, right? But I don't know the number count. Probably the thinnest position would be linebacker, to be quite honest. Everything else, I think we're okay. But linebacker's a little bit of concern. Now, we've got some guys that have started. The Soley brothers, hey, how about that? You know, that's unique. They're going to play together. We've had some backup guys that have played, but not a lot. But that's a thin position. You know, we're always kind of looking at that one. But you play so much nickel now because of how people play it. The linebacker comes out anyway, so you're going to play with 2 of them, right? And who are those 2 guys going to be? So that helps you because of how football is played now, that you don't hardly play with 3 linebackers anymore. So we've got some safeties that we brought in that we know can play in the box. We have some guys that played last year. That helps you because this safety basically, a la John Lynch, he's a linebacker. That's what John was for us. He was basically a strong safety, but he was at the linebacker position along with Rodney Barber when we went nickel. And, you know, we took a backer out or 2, and we still had 2 comparable guys that could play in the pass coverage, but also the run, that could support the run and play in the run defense. So that was important.
The follow-up question is the status of a couple guys, T. Lee, Stanley Lambert, and Jaden Williams. Are they suspended, not part of the program? How would you classify their status?
I would say they're not part of the program at this point for different reasons, but that's kind of where they're at.
Cool.
Herm, I would just want, Cole Topham, Devil's Digest. I just wanted your thoughts on Emory Jones, and does it feel a little bit like deja vu seeing him in a number 5 jersey?
No, because when we were talking to him, I asked him what was the number, and he told me. I said, "Oh, it's available." Oh, it's available. So I tell you what, I've grown to really, really appreciate him a lot. Just being around him and even talking to him before he got on campus, and I think he's done a nice job along with all those guys. But I think he's a guy that has some talent. That I think that we're gonna enjoy watching if he ends up being the guy. You know, but he's competing for the position. He knew that when he came here.
And you've got some athletic tight ends on the roster, and there's been talk about, you know, some more 12 personnel usage for this season. How do you anticipate using those tight ends in the offense?
Well, that's important. That always is a factor. I think that's a problem. You don't see that a lot in college football. You know, you see more the spread version. When you run into that where you can use multiple tight ends And then the ones that can run and catch. Messiah had a really good spring. He has a chance to be a pretty good player, obviously, along with the other guys in there too. So we've got 4 tight ends that we kind of really like. We can use them in different situations, in the run game, also in the pass game. That always presents a problem defensively when you have athletic tight ends, because you go in there with a package thinking they're going to run the ball, and then all of a sudden you break the formation and he's standing out there as a wideout. Who's going to cover him, right? So it's just, you can do some things with that, so that always helps you offensively.
Michael and then Ken.
Coach Michael Caracino, Sideline Sports. And to piggyback off what you're saying about the 43 new players, I mean, usually you don't have as many. With your experience, are there different things that you've done this offseason to kind of, can't force chemistry, but just to kind of help build it with the team?
Well, I think the thing for us is kind of a little bit unusual. We also put in a new offense in the spring, right? Defensively, we stayed about the same. That's it. We're single high, and we want to play cat coverage if we can, and stop the run and play cat coverage and see what we can do. And worked out pretty good for us last year defensively. We're pretty good defense. Now we have to improve in some things for sure, but I just think that, when you look at us, we don't quite know what we are. We have an idea of what we would like to become, and I've said this earlier. By week 3, we'll have an idea. We'll have an idea of the players that have played, what their strengths are, and whatever we have to do offensively to play to their strengths, that's probably going to be the most important thing.
And then to follow up, how do you feel up to this point? I know you're saying week 3, but up to this point, the new guys have adjusted to your coaches in the program.
Oh, I like them. They're eager. They got energy. They got a little bit of glow in their eyes, because it's opportunity. Look, when you look at it this way, whether you're recruited out of high school, JC, or you're a portal guy, and you end up going somewhere maybe different than you had been, it's an opportunity. And I think that's all players want. Will I get a chance? Will I get an opportunity? And the one thing we've said around here is about competition. And they know that. They've done that. Joe's done a great job with them on the offseason. And now we got to get them on the grass and figure out what they can do.
Last couple of questions, starting with Ken.
Kent Summers, Arizona Republic. One of the things, obviously, last year's team had to deal with was an NCAA investigation. Do you think that cloud has dissipated a bit? Is it something that will be on these guys' mind that will have an impact on this year's team?
I don't think it had an impact on last year's team, to be quite honest. We just went to work. We talked about it. We went to work. That's what you do. You just go to work. And that's what these guys have done. And 43 new ones elected to come. So now we're going to get ready to play football. If you're able to come to practice Wednesday, just watch. You'll see the first snap, you'll go, whoa, okay. I don't know if we're going to be any good, but you'll see some energy. You'll see some energy on the grass. I can promise you that. I can feel it. I know it. You could see it. You could sense it. Because that's what they want to do. They want to go play. You know what I learned when I was in kindergarten? The worst thing the teacher could do to me, and they figured me out after about a week, because I was always talking in class. Put your nose on the window and watch the other kids go have recess. See how that feels. Because recess, to me, the greatest thing ever invented. Greatest thing ever invented. We get to have recess now. We're going on the grass. We're going to practice. We're going to coach football. That's the fun of it.
Coach Kevin Redford, House of Sparky, you talked about cat coverage. It reminded me of Jack Jones. We're hearing that he's having a good camp, potentially Darian Butler as well is getting some opportunities. Do you ever hear from those guys or any alums that tell you what worked for them when they were here?
I know enough pro guys to where they're at. All I got to do is call the coach. I know how all of them are doing. Not surprising. Not surprising to me. I mean, that's, we say we have this pro model. 11 guys signed contracts. It's a lot of guys on one team. I think 5 guys were drafted. It's a lot of guys. That kind of goes under the radar. Oh, okay, yeah. You look at kind of the guys that have gone on, and we've had some other guys drafted before those guys. That was the most. And they all graduated. every single one of them graduated. And we lose sight of that too. You know, there's a lot of good things happening for guys here. They graduate. They're being taught in a system that'll allow them to have a chance at the next level if they're talented enough. And the NFL elected to take 11 of our guys. I didn't do it. They did it. They did it on the grass. And when you see coaches come in here to work these guys out, they visit with me, and they tell me what they see, what they like about our program. So that's the fun part, because it's coming to fruition. And they graduate. Can't say it enough. They all graduated, which is great.
4 more questions. Joey, Noel, Luke, and Chris.
Joey Vaca, Inferno Intel. Coach, it seems that the past
excuse me, what, from where?
Inferno Intel.
Inferno Intel. Okay, that's a new one. All right. All right.
It seems that the past 2 years, the run game was like a focal point of the offense, but with all the roster changes this year, is the mentality to try to build off of what's been successful the past few seasons, or can we expect something completely different?
You asked about the run game, huh? When have we not run? We're going to run the ball. You can't run the ball, you can't win. You got to run the ball. Bottom line, you got to run. You have to be able to run the ball. I think we have a couple backs that are pretty good. We'll see. We'll see, but you got to be able to run the ball. That's just something about that when you can do that. You know, there's a toughness about that. There's a will about that. You know, run game and good defense travels well on the road. Travels well in cold conditions. All that's part of football. We lose sight of it. I know we want 35, 45 and all that, but 10 to 7 is good sometimes too. You're on the right side of it.
Noel?
Coach, thank you for your time today. Noel Blumel with Inferno Intel. Last week I asked
You work for the same place?
I'm sorry?
You guys, same company?
Yes.
Oh, you got 2. Okay, good.
So last week I posed the question to some of the veterans if they could describe the culture of this team in 3 words, which words they would use. Some examples were ready to go, chip on shoulder. I now want to ask you if you agree with those statements and which words you would choose to describe.
Coach-fed, player-led. It's their locker room. Whatever they decide it is, that's what it is. It's their team. I've always said that. Players' team. All we do is give them direction. Then you got to have enough guys that take the direction and take it to the other 100 guys and say, this is the direction, and this is where we're going. And there's a leadership committee here of 10, 11 guys that have done a fabulous job. Fabulous job. They meet once a week or whatever it is, and it's fun to watch it, just to watch these guys grow up. Some of them were freshmen when they got here, some of them were sophomores. Just to watch them grow up and have the voice of the team and in the locker room. And I can lean on them and say, hey, I need this, I need that. We talk all the time, but it's their football team. And they get to set the culture.
Coach, what have you liked from what you've seen so far from the coordinator position from both Glenn Thomas and Donnie Henderson, and how excited are you for the open house coming up?
Well, Donnie worked with me before in New York. I just get nervous about Donnie when they start moving the ball because he gets off the script. And that means, oh boy, I close my eyes, because that means there's a bunch of people getting ready to attack the line of scrimmage. And I'll just leave that alone. I don't want to give his secrets away. Glenn has been in a pro offense. He's well connected with Brian, a guy that I know very well. I think Brian will be here next week, or he'll be here this week, camp. But it's going to be fun to watch that. I've always been a guy that I never lose sight of this. I think you have to go under center as a quarterback. It brings a different look offensively. It puts the defense in a pickle when a quarterback can actually go under there, because now play action and all this other stuff that you don't see a lot in college football anymore. It's kind of like, that's old school. I don't know about old school. It works. And you got to practice that. You got to practice multiple tight ends. You got to, and I think that's always been our mindset. And Glenn's been enough places where he's learned how to do that. And Brian has obviously been a big help as well.
Herm, just I was going to build off of that. You have as many tight ends as wide receivers, and not a lot of returning production at the wide receiver position.
Yes.
So does that lend itself to getting into a more 12 personnel? And also, is that something that maybe a trend? You know, things go in cycles. Utah was great at using the 2 and 3 tight end stuff last year.
No, I think anytime you use multiple tight ends, that's always, it's even in the league, it's hard. And the guys that play on Sunday is hard. It's just because you don't see it. You know, you don't see it. I shouldn't say you don't see it. You don't see it a lot, right? Because you pay the quarterback so much. You're paying the quarterback to hand the ball off or throw to a tight end. You know, people want to see the ball go down the field. But I just think it makes you defensively have to go, oh, we got to deal with that now. And you get off a gap because all of a sudden you add another gap when you play with multiple tight ends. You add another gap to the defense. If somebody's out of whack, and it happened to us against Utah, right? And all of a sudden there's a guy running, you go, what just happened, right? And so I just think for us, and you mentioned it with the wide receiver core, I think we're talented. I think we got some talented guys. They haven't played together, you know, and along with the quarterback hadn't played with them. So that's, right? I mean, you got to get that all down, and it's going to take a little time to figure that out. Good question.
Thanks, Coach.
Good?
We'll be back here on
You
Wednesday.
guys have a wonderful day.
So,
Thank you.
then I'm going to have you.